The soft hum of meditation crystals filled my personal chamber as I, Grand Master Kalix Vor, prepared for what would surely be another predictable victory. 300 years of undefeated combat across 17 galaxies had taught me one thing: there was always a challenger who thought they would be different. Today's opponent? A human of all species. Computer, display the challenger's statistics, I commanded, my third eye pulsing with mild annoyance. The holoscreen materialized before me, displaying basic information about the so-called warrior from Earth. How primitive. Their species had barely mastered interstellar travel, and here one of them dared to challenge me in the sacred art of blade combat. The meditation crystals pulsed faster, matching my rising heart rates. Yes, heart rates plural. Unlike these humans with their simplified cardiovascular systems, my species had evolved proper redundancy. Speaking of redundancy, this would be the fourth human I had faced in my illustrious career. The previous three? Well, let's just say they provided adequate entertainment for approximately 47 seconds each. Grand Master, my chamber assistant, Nexus, called through the communication field. The celestial arena awaits your presence. The crowds are particularly large today. Of course they are, I responded, rising from my meditation pose. Who wouldn't want to witness another glorious victory for the history crystals? As I made my way through the pristine corridors of the preparation area, I could feel the energy of the celestial arena pulsing through the very walls of Nexus Prime. The greatest combat venue in known space, carved from a single asteroid of pure lumanium, its crystalline walls transformed the vacuum of space into a breathable atmosphere through methods the humans would probably mistake for magic. The arena's central platform, suspended in a gravity-defying dance between twin artificial stars, would soon become this human's final regret. The viewing galleries, arranged in ascending rings that seemed to pierce the very fabric of space-time, were already filled with spectators from 1,000 worlds. Your blade selection has been prepared, Grand Master Nexus informed me, his tentacles gracefully manipulating the security fields. Though I must inform you, the human has made an unusual request regarding weapons. I felt my facial ridges rise in amusement. Oh? Do tell. They wish to use a primitive metal sword, not even a plasma edge or quantum-locked blade. My laughter echoed through the corridor, causing several nearby crystals to resonate in harmony. Granted, let them bring their toys. It will make for a more entertaining holovid when future generations study my victories. Standing before the great doors that would soon part to reveal the arena floor, I adjusted my ceremonial armor, not that I would need its protection. The gleaming plates of living metal shifted and flowed, adapting perfectly to my movement. A stark contrast to the crude protection humans called armor. Final preparations complete. Grand Master, the arena systems announced. The crowd awaits. I smiled, all 3 rows of teeth gleaming under the artificial starlight. 300 years of victory, 17 galaxies conquered, countless challengers defeated. And now, a human with a metal sword thought they could change that? Oh, this would be entertaining indeed. The great doors parted, and I strode onto the arena floor with practiced grace. The crowd's roar was deafening, a cacophony of sounds from 1,000 different species. But then, something unexpected happened. The cheering faltered, replaced by a mixture of laughter and confused murmuring. I turned my attention to the opposite entrance, where my challenger had appeared. Jack Blackwood. Even for a human, he looked unremarkable. Average height, wearing what appeared to be simple black training garments. No ceremonial armor. No technological enhancements visible. Not even the basic genetic modifications most spacefaring humans opted for. The betting odds are currently 1,000 to 1 against the human challenger, the arena's AI announced, its voice echoing through the vast space. More laughter erupted from the crowds. A Zentorian in the front row was laughing so hard its crystalline body was starting to crack. Greetings, Grand Master Vor, Jack Blackwood called out, his voice carrying clearly despite the arena's massive size. Thank you for accepting my challenge. I couldn't help but notice he spoke perfect galactic standard, without even a translation device. Interesting, but ultimately irrelevant. Welcome, human Jack Blackwood, I responded, my voice dripping with ceremonial politeness. I trust you've made peace with your chosen deities. The human's response was not what I expected. He smiled. Not the nervous smile of a being about to face their doom, but the confident smile of a predator. How amusing. 10,000 credits on the human, someone shouted from the upper rings. The crowd's laughter intensified. More bets started pouring in, the odds growing even more ridiculous. 2,000 to 1. 3,000 to 1. Your reputation precedes you, Grand Master Jack continued, walking forward with a casual grace that caught my attention. Something about his movement pattern seemed off. 300 years undefeated. That's quite an achievement. Indeed, I replied, my third eye focusing on his gait while my primary eyes maintained formal contact. Though I must admit, I'm curious. What brings a member of such a young species to challenge me? Surely you've seen the holovids of my previous matches. Jack stopped at the traditional 10-pace distance. Up close, he looked even more ordinary. No cybernetic enhancements, no neural interfaces, not even the subdermal armor most warriors wore. Just flesh, bone, and that irritatingly confident smile. Oh, I've studied all your matches, Grand Master. Fascinating stuff. Particularly the Andromedian Championships of 2754. That reverse quantum slash? Beautiful technique. Now that was unexpected. Few beings alive remembered those early matches, let alone specific moves. I felt my facial ridges twitch with mild irritation. This human was either exceptionally well prepared or exceptionally foolish. Possibly both. The ceremonial greetings have been exchanged, the arena AI announced. Weapons selection will commence in 30 seconds. I watched as Jack rolled his shoulders, that strange smile never leaving his face. The crowd had finally settled into an anticipatory hush, though occasional snickers still echoed through the vast space. A word of advice, human, I said, allowing my amusement to show. I'll try to make this quick. I have dinner reservations at the Quantum Feast, and I'd hate to be late. Jack's response sent an unexpected chill down all three of my spinal columns. No need to worry about those reservations, Grand Master. I took the liberty of canceling them. I figured you might be indisposed. The ancient weapon selection ritual began with the traditional lowering of the arsenal sphere. A massive crystalline orb containing the finest weapons from across the known galaxies. As the defending champion, tradition dictated that I choose second. Another small advantage for my opponent. Not that it would matter. Jack Blackwood of Earth, the arena AI's voice resonated. Approach the arsenal sphere and select your weapon. The human walked forward, and I prepared myself for the usual attempt at overcompensation. Most challengers went for the most advanced weapon they could find, hoping technology would make up for their shortcomings. The quantum phase blade, perhaps, or maybe the plasma edge decimator. Ah, there it is, Jack said, reaching into the sphere. The weapon he pulled out caused a collective gasp from the crowd, followed by more laughter. In his hands was a simple steel sword, Earth-made by the look of it. Not even a power field generator or gravity compensator in sight. The human challenger has selected a Grade 0 weapon, traditional steel sword, Terra Origin, the AI announced, sounding almost confused. This selection is valid under ancient laws. Avrox Noble in the diplomatic section actually fell out of its hover seat laughing. He's going to fight Kalix Vor with a metal stick it wheezed through its breathing apparatus. I felt my facial ridges contort in disbelief. You do understand this is a death match, I asked, breaking protocol to address him directly. That blade won't even scratch my armor. Jack tested the sword's balance with a few simple movements. Oh, I think it'll do just fine. The arsenal sphere rotated toward me, presenting my usual selection of premier weapons. But something about the human's confidence needled at me. Perhaps it was time to send a stronger message. I select the Starfire Saber, I declared. The crowd fell silent. Even the laughing Avrox Noble froze. The legendary blade emerged from its stasis field, its edge burning with the captured essence of a dying sun. The last time I had used this weapon, I had cut a small moon in half. The message was clear: this would not be a mere defeat, but an obliteration. The defending champion has selected a Grade 7 weapon, the Starfire Saber, the AI announced. The weapon disparity is noted and logged. Final safety protocols are now engaged. As we took our positions, I noticed something odd. The betting had stopped. The laughter had died. Something about the way the human held that primitive blade had changed the atmosphere in the arena. Even my third eye couldn't quite track his stance. It seemed to shift subtly every time I tried to analyze it. An interesting choice, Grand Master Jack commented, nodding toward the Starfire saber, compensating for something. The crowd sucked in a collective breath. No one had dared speak to me like that in over a century. I felt my rage glands beginning to secrete their deadly cocktail. "Begin on the third bell," the AI announced. "May the ancestors witness your valor." The third bell rang, its crystalline tone still echoing through the arena as I launched my opening attack. The Starfire saber traced a burning arc through space, its quantum edge designed to slice through any known material. A simple, devastating strike that had ended 47 duels in their first second. Jack wasn't there. He had moved, yes, but the movement made no sense. A simple step, nothing more. No enhanced speed, no technological assistance, just a step. The blade passed through empty air, its burning edge heating the atmosphere into plasma. "Almost got me there," Jack said, that insufferable smile still on his face. "Want to try again?" I obliged, launching into my famous seventh kata, a sequence of strikes that attacked from 11 different dimensional angles simultaneously. The Starfire saber howled through the air, each strike precise enough to split atoms. Again, simple movements, no wasted energy, no flashy techniques. Jack moved like flowing water, each dodge appearing almost accidental. My superior senses detected something bizarre. His movements seemed to begin a fraction of a second before my attacks. "Impossible," I growled, my third eye straining to analyze his pattern. "No human reflexes are this fast." "Who said anything about reflexes?" Jack replied, and then he did something that made my heart skip a beat. He attacked. That primitive steel blade moved in a simple arc, nothing special about it. I raised the Starfire saber to parry, expecting the steel to vaporize on contact. The blades met with a sound that should not have existed, the ring of steel on steel. The crowd's gasp was audible even over the humming of my blade. I stared at the point of contact. The steel sword was completely unmarked. "Quantum molecular edge disruption," I said, understanding dawning. "You've modified the blade." Jack's laugh was genuine. "Nope, just good old-fashioned steel. Sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one." My next series of attacks came from pure instinct, centuries of training taking over. The Starfire saber became a web of burning light, each strike capable of sundering battleships. Jack's responses were economical, almost lazy. He never blocked when he could dodge, never struck when he could simply not be where my blade was. First blood was drawn 7 minutes into the duel. I felt it before I saw it, a thin line across my secondary combat arm, precisely where a gap in my armor allowed for maximum mobility. The crowd's shocked silence was absolute. "That's not possible," I said, watching my violet blood well up from the shallow cut. "My armor's quantum field should have what?" Jack interrupted, beginning his own attack sequence. "Should have protected you, should have predicted my strike, should have compensated for a simple blade moving in normal space-time." I found myself giving ground, my tactical processors trying to make sense of what they were seeing. His attacks weren't complex, weren't enhanced by any technology I could detect. They were just perfect. Each move flowing into the next with an efficiency that bordered on supernatural. "You're waiting," I realized suddenly, blocking a thrust that would have found my primary heart. "You've been waiting this entire time." Studying, Jack corrected, flowing around my counterattack like mist. "Learning. Humans are good at that, you know. We spend our lives learning, adapting, understanding. 300 years is impressive, Grand Master. But how much of that time did you spend actually improving?" The crowd was silent now, their earlier laughter forgotten. Even the arena AI seemed to be paying unusual attention, its sensors focused entirely on the impossible duel unfolding before them. I activated the Starfire saber's ultimate configuration, its edge now burning hot enough to ignite the very air around it. "Let's see how well you adapt to this," I snarled. Jack's smile widened. "Now we're getting somewhere." The Starfire saber's ultimate configuration filled the arena with the light of a newborn star. As the superheated blade carved patterns of plasma through the air, my mind flashed back to my first championship match, 3 centuries ago. My opponent then, a quantum blade master from the Andromeda Core, had said something that only now began to make sense. True mastery, he had said, comes not from the weapon, but from understanding its absence. At the time, I had dismissed it as the ramblings of a dying warrior. Now, Watching Jack move through my attacks with that simple steel sword, I finally understood. "Your blade," I said, breathing heavily through all 3 respiratory systems. "It creates no distortion in the quantum field, no disruption in space-time, no technological signature at all. Just steel, forged by human hands," Jack confirmed, deflecting another of my strikes with insulting ease. "No quantum mechanics, no probability fields, no artificial enhancements. That's why your predictive combat systems are failing. They're trying to calculate the incalculable pure human skill." The truth hit me harder than any physical blow. My armor's combat computer wasn't malfunctioning. It simply couldn't process what it was seeing. Every prediction it made was based on advanced technology, on quantum mechanics, on the fundamental laws of physics as we understood them. But Jack wasn't using any of that. 300 years, he said, launching into a new sequence of attacks that forced me back across the arena floor. 300 years of relying on technology to predict your opponent's moves, to enhance your reactions, to give you an edge. But what happens when you face something pure, something basic, something that operates outside your technological frameworks? His blade was everywhere and nowhere, each strike flowing into the next like water through a stream. My superior alien reflexes, my enhanced neural pathways, my quantum predictive combat systems, all of them useless against the simple perfection of his movements. "Stop talking and fight," I roared, pushing the Starfire saber beyond its safety limits. The blade's containment field began to waver, threatening to unleash the power of a solar flare. Jack's response was to lower his sword slightly, intentionally creating an opening in his defense. "Make me." I took the bait, striking with everything I had. The Starfire saber screamed through the air, its edge hot enough to vaporize mountains. 300 years of victories, of perfecting the art of energy blade combat, focused into a single, perfect strike. Time seemed to slow as Jack moved. Not the artificial slowdown of combat drugs or neural enhancers, but the strange distortion of a moment so perfect that reality itself seemed to hold its breath. His simple steel blade intercepted my strike at precisely the right angle, with precisely the right force, at precisely the right moment. The Starfire saber, pride of my collection, the most advanced weapon in 17 galaxies, shattered. "Impossible," I whispered, staring at the broken hilt in my hand. "No," Jack corrected softly. "Just human." Standing there with my shattered weapon. I did something I hadn't done in 3 centuries. I reached for my backup blade, not an energy weapon, but an ancient metallic sword passed down through my bloodline for thousands of years. The crowd murmured as I drew it from its dimensional sheath. "Now that," Jack said, nodding appreciatively, "is a proper sword." The blade hummed with age and power, its perfectly balanced weight familiar in my grip. No quantum fields, no probability enhancers, just metal and skill, like his. "My ancestor's blade," I explained, settling into a stance I hadn't used since my youth. "Forged in the heart of a dying star, before my people discovered quantum technology." "Beautiful," Jack commented. Then he moved. The next sequence defied description. Our blades met in a dance of steel on steel, each clash sending sparks cascading through the arena. Without my technological advantages, without the predictive systems and quantum fields, I found myself fighting purely on instinct. And for the first time in centuries, I felt truly alive. "You were holding back," I accused between strikes, recognizing patterns that no beginner could know. Jack's blade wove an impossible pattern, forcing me to respond with everything I had. "So were you," he replied, "hidden behind all that technology. Tell me, Grand Master, when was the last time you felt the true song of steel?" My answer was a combination strike that would have impressed my own masters had they lived to see it. Jack met it with a counter that shouldn't have been possible, his blade somehow being in 3 places at once, without any technological assistance. "What you call impossible," Jack said, reading my confusion, "we call Tuesday practice. Humans have spent millennia perfecting the art of the sword. Not with quantum mechanics or probability fields, but with blood, sweat, and endless practice." The truth of his words struck me harder than any physical blow. Every advanced technique I knew, every quantum-enhanced strike and probability-shifted parry, was built on the foundation of basic swordplay. The foundations I had neglected for centuries in favor of technological advancement. Jack's next move was something I had never seen before. His blade moved in a pattern that my third eye couldn't track, not because of any technological trickery, but because it followed principles my species had never discovered. The sword swept past my guard, stopping a hair's breadth from my primary heart. "Check," he said softly. I tried to counter, but found my own blade pinned in a position that made movement impossible without risking immediate death. 3 centuries of combat experience screamed at me to use advanced techniques, to rely on technology. But stripped of those crutches, I finally understood. "I yield," I said, the words feeling strange on my tongue. "The match is yours." The arena fell silent. In 300 years, no one had ever heard those words from me. Jack stepped back, lowering his blade with simple grace. "Thank you for the match," he said, bowing slightly. "Your ancestors' blade, its balance is exquisite. Perhaps next time we could start with those, skip the light show entirely." I stared at him, then at the simple steel sword that had defeated the most advanced weapon in known space. "Next time?" The arena AI's voice boomed through the stadium, "Victory to Jack Blackwood of Earth. History has been made this day." The crowd erupted, not in their usual bloodthirsty roar, but in genuine appreciation. The betting houses would be in chaos for weeks. A 3,000-to-1 underdog victory would reshape the galactic economy for months to come. "The Galactic Combat Federation recognizes this historic victory," the announcer continued, "and welcomes Earth as a full member of the Blade Masters Council." I watched as Jack sheathed his simple steel sword, that same gentle smile still on his face. "You know," I said, carefully returning my ancestor's blade to its dimensional sheath, "those dinner reservations you canceled? Perhaps we could reschedule. I find myself suddenly hungry to learn more about human sword techniques." "I would be honored," Jack replied. "Though I should warn you, human restaurants don't serve quantum-enhanced cuisine. Just simple ingredients, prepared with skill and patience, rather like our sword fighting." As we walked together toward the arena exit, I couldn't help but laugh. "You humans are going to be insufferable about this victory, aren't you?" "Oh, absolutely," Jack grinned. "We're going to be completely unbearable. But look on the bright side, at least you'll be known as the first alien smart enough to learn from us." I touched the cut on my secondary arm, already healing but destined to leave a scar. A reminder that sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one, even if it means getting beaten by a human with a primitive metal sword. "Computer," I said as we reached the exit, "reschedule those dinner reservations. And add a note, no quantum utensils required."